I like the freight. I haven't taken it in rough seas.
I took it in rough seas. It was amazing.
It's a weird color.
Great
when
ride. Had to give the,
you get what beggars
water
can't
coming
be
over
choosers.
the
Get what you
vehicle,
get.
but
We heard what they did with the Nantucket. When it went over the first one, they didn't take any cars. The actual one they put on. There was so much luggage. They had the passengers put the luggage in the car lanes on the two outsides, and they had most of the passengers on the freight deck. Because
Keep them down
Standing.
low.
no, it was standing room only. Because you have capacity of 737, but that includes being able to be upstairs and on the outside, and there was no one going to be on the outside. It would be on the outside. It was one of your greater lives.
Right.
Give this to herself.
Yeah, my daughter made the last boat here that one. She drove from Philadelphia and just made this, I think the last
So-
boat, 230.
That was the one. That was the one.
She made it from Hyannis to here.
Right.
Otherwise she wouldn't have been, she would have been spending in Hyannis.
Right.
Good.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
It is 3:20. It is December 16. The notice of the meeting has been appropriately given, and we have a quorum present. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All present except Harry Rector. So call the meeting to order. The agenda has been circulated, and there are two items that I would like to have consideration to add to the agenda. About 20 minutes ago, I received from the town an application with respect to some funding for the playing fields, and what I would propose to do is that we put it on the agenda to approve it subject to review by Rich Turer and Linda. It's for $54,160. And the reason I want to do that is we have agreed with the town that we would not hold stuff up so that they can't make their payments within 14 days that they're required to under the law. So we want to put that on the agenda.
For fund requisitions.
Under fund requisitions. And the other item on the agenda is my bad. Under new business, I just want to give an update on my meeting with FinCom last week. So with those two additions, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
As to the minutes were circulated. Rich has made a couple of very positive suggestions to them that Rich and I would like to review. So I would ask that we defer a review and approval of the extended minutes until next meeting. If that is okay with everyone.
That's fine.
All three sets, the 21st, the 5th, and the 8th.
Which is the one that you wanted to look at? Which is the last one?
November 18th. It was the 18th.
November 18th. Okay, it's just November 18th minutes that he has changes to. So we could approve October 21 and November 5 if that's the pleasure of the committee.
Motion to approve those two?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
So all except the...
All except November 18th.
18th.
And November 18th will be on next month's meeting.
We're going to make the change to those, Rich?
We will make them,
Highlight
and
them.
we will highlight them and
Right.
circulate them out too. Okay. All right. What has been circulated to you is a copy of a letter from Robert Frazier, the curator of exhibitions for the Artists Association. The long and short of the letter is that they're looking to transfer $612.26 from the fiscal year 08 project to the fiscal year 2011 project. In as much as they are projects that are consistent with each other, I think it is within the purview of this committee to choose to allow that transfer, and it would need to be done by a motion to be able to do that.
Let me explain it before you go on. It's my project, and they did call me, and they have just that little bit left, and they are beginning to do, with the new building going up, they are beginning to actually go forward with the other grant, and it's going to run over what we gave them, so they're just trying to commingle, but it's all the preservation and the upkeep of all their artwork.
What project is this again? Sorry.
The Art Association,
The Arts Association.
restoration.
Wasn't some of it in the letter? Wasn't it some of it just copying stuff digitally?
Well, they're trying to get a digital record of it in case
Right,
something
yeah,
happens to it,
right.
but they're now going into a new building, so they'll have the facilities, they're building into the new building, all the facilities to preserve them also, and the workroom and everything else, so it's quite a project. So I told them to apply for it and have a discussion here. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Is there further discussion with respect to it?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question of protocol. You know, being new, I don't know how often people take and move money and what's the criteria for approval when this happens. So, I mean,
I guess it's
as
only-
I read it, it's fine to me. So that
In my
being said-
recollection, over 13 years is only the second time it's ever happened.
Is that right? Okay.
They have to be within the same scope.
Within the same
It can't be a
scope.
whole new
Yeah.
thing going on
The only
that we
other
never
time that we did
contemplated.
it was with respect to the playing fields, where we agreed to consolidate funds from certain aspects of the playing field project
Mhm.
into the monies available to pay for the
turf.
artificial
Yes.
turf.
Okay.
But for instance, it was that thing at the Dreamland where they want to take the trust money and put it
No.
in chairs.
No, and we said no.
Yeah, that's a
Right,
totally
right.
different
Yeah.
issue.
I mean, I'm still learning that.
Yeah,
exactly.
no, the point is that it needs to be consistent within the overall scope of the project, within
Mhm.
both organizations.
For the benefit of those of us that are newer to the board, would you tell us what the project is?
The Artists Association project.
It's
Yeah.
the preservation and restoration of a lot of their artwork. They've been gifted for decades, in wills and donations and whatnot of old paintings and things like that, and they've just sort of been stuck in slats.
I see.
And they have rented a temperature-controlled unit out at, was it the
Sun
Nantucket
Island?
Storage?
No, it's an Nantucket store.
Right.
To house all this stuff, and they're now beginning to fix the frames, digitally copy them so they have a record of them, so they're beginning to go of the permanent collection as opposed to the things that are sold by artists. We're not doing any of that. It's all their permanent collection, which is
Bob
quite
Fraser
extensive.
Bob
Bob Fraser
is
is
the
the
head
person
guy, right?
of that
Yeah,
element, yeah.
Right, right, sure.
I think the first, 2008,
Thank you.
is that where we were the
Yeah.
first time? Yeah.
Any other questions with respect to that? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to consolidate $612.26 into the 2011 grant?
Aye.
Any opposition? Carries unanimously. The next piece of correspondence, I did not have circulated. It's going to be tough for me to read. It says, "Dear Ken and members of the CPC, after 4 terms and 13 years, I've decided to not seek re-election as an at-large member of the Community Preservation Committee. I've weighed this decision extensively over the last 3 months, and it appears to be the best time to move in a different direction. I'm very proud and honored to have served and accomplished so much for the citizens of Nantucket over these last 13 years. The projects, big and small, in all disciplines of the art, have no doubt had a profound impact here on Nantucket. I have thoroughly enjoyed the process of working with so many wonderful people. Today, the CPC on Nantucket is as strong, if not stronger, than ever. And is a terrific chairman, extremely dedicated and profoundly efficient in all aspects of the CPA. The committee itself is also strong, diverse, and very hardworking. Additionally, the dedication and never-ending support from Neville and Glenna has been a constant and very integral part of the CPC story, and I thank them. Now, with the move to our new office and the challenges that are routinely presented, we are well served and positioned for the next decade. I extend my best wishes to all involved. Again, thank you. It's been a pleasure to be a part of such a tremendous team. Sincerely, Richard B. Brannigan, Vice Chair.
What happens if we don't
I
accept?
think it's unacceptable.
We're not
Yeah, it's
accepting
not.
the resignation. I'm
You
sorry.
can't leave on a year 13. You have, could be unlucky to have to do another term to get
Right.
16, 17.
He stays a member until the election in April. And-
Okay, I'm saying a write-in.
Right.
Yep. We can always write you in.
Richard, thank you.
Too bad, so
Thank you,
sad.
Richard.
You'd have to serve.
Yeah, it was,
This is the love
I-
of your life here.
yeah, believe me, it was hard. I vacillated back and forth, probably for the last 6 months. And I kind of tipped it a little bit when Kamal interviewed me for our newsletter in the summer. And I said I was entertaining it, and he said, well, that's newsworthy. And I said, well, I'm going back and forth. And I was. and it's not easy, and it's not easy today. I mean, I've enjoyed the work, I've enjoyed what we've done, I've enjoyed how we've done it, I've enjoyed working with everyone, and I just don't know, and I just felt that another 3 years, you know, as, I don't want to say as difficult, but as challenging as some of the years have been, I just, and Ken has been a wonderful partner, great chairman, and I just felt that now was the time. And you know, I'm disappointed to be leaving. I feel good in leaving because of everything that we've achieved and everything that we've accomplished. And I truly feel that the committee is as strong as it's ever been. I mean, the new hires, I'll call them new hires, the new additions. I mean, Rich and Toby, Bam, Kristen, you know, you guys are solid. I've seen it over the last 6 months and the last year, what your contributions have been. You know, going to the office the other day and seeing the office, that was really exciting to see the office. I mean, you know, the pieces aren't there, but you can see the vision of what's going to happen here in the next couple of months with the new office. It's great space, well lit. You know, the plans to hang our projects on the wall and what Glenn and Neville will do there. You know, so it's it was hard to do, and we'll, you know, I just, what could I say? I mean, it's I've liked the work, and I liked everything that we achieved, and it's just you know, now feels to be the time.
Got lots of great grandkids too.
Thank you.
No, it's not the time. Sorry.
And yeah, it was
Well, if we write you in, too bad.
right. couple people. I mean, not a couple, but you know, I think I think 1 or 2 people might step forward. I don't plan to make it a newsworthy story. I don't want to deter or detract anything from our committee, so I'm not sending that note or any note to the paper. So I don't want me to be the story. I mean, the story is the CPC, our warrant, the projects, and what we got on the docket going forward. You know, so you know, I just feel bad leaving the committee and certainly leaving Ken. But as I told those guys the other day, you know, I'll still be here. You got questions, you got concerns, or not that I'll provide any right answers, but I'll be a sounding board. And you know, so I'll be here until you know, town meeting and the election, and you know, I'm sure there'll be somebody that'll step forward and come on the board.
It
Because
seems,
Daryl's up for election this year as well, because both at-large members
At the same time.
are up at the same time.
Mhm.
It's just the way it ended up.
Yeah, I mean, I was appointed first year, you know, for a 1-year spot, you know, when the committee was formed. So, you know, I put my name in, and you know the process. So 13 years ago, I put my name in because I was part of the Nantucket Resident Housing Partnership, and said, all right, I'll put my name in. And the Board of Selectmen appointed me for 1 year, and then it's been 3 or 4 unopposed years. You know, I'm usually the top vote getter next to Sarah, and I think I've always kidded. I think I had extra name recognition because my son is always in the paper with the soccer. So, are you the soccer guy, or are you the CPC guy? And maybe sometimes we blended both, you know, but that wasn't the intention. But I think I got a little extra recognition, and that maybe they thought they were voting for the soccer coach.
Well, we have time to talk you back into it.
Right.
Are we sending him an appropriate thank you letter?
You don't need to do that.
I know we
You don't-
don't,
you don't
but
need
it's
So
usually,
was that your motion to authorize the
second that.
chairman to
yes.
send an appropriate letter of
Yes.
appreciation and thanks?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Second.
You don't need to do that, and again, it's,
We don't need to do anything.
We don't
but
need
pay
to hear
taxes
from
and
you.
die,
I made the
so
motion, it's been
move on.
seconded, let it go.
all right.
Any further discussion?
All in favor?
I'm just, yeah, oh, yeah.
All in
All in
favor?
favor?
Guys,
Aye.
Dan?
I'm just, I'm sorry that you're leaving now because we're new members and you have experience and have some knowledge about money. And I have some experience around Nantucket, but not much about money, you know? It's a different, I just hope we can fill your shoes together somehow, you know?
I'm
Yeah.
confident you guys will.
well, the institutional knowledge between you, me, Ken, Barry,
Right.
is huge. And you have so much of a knowledge of aspects that Barry and I don't. And I think that's going to be a huge vacuum there, especially when it comes to budget time, getting the money straightened out, you know, historical knowledge. I mean, that's helped the CPC function for 13 years, is because at least the four of us that remain have some context. And I'd rather you just stay forever.
This
And
a
there is still
conversation
time
that
to
he's
talk you
heard-
back in.
He's heard several times already.
I am not happy.
Alrighty.
All right.
All right.
On to the fund requisition. Linda, when you stepped out, I asked that the agenda be amended to add an additional requisition that, let's deal with it separately because it is different. Okay.
Okay.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the fund requisitions in Article Roman 1, letters A through G as set forth on the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Ken, I
Go
just had a general question or thought I wanted to bring up in regards to the Sea Hostel roof. And that is when I went out there, and I've been very happy with the work, it's done and everything, but when they went through and did the work, there's traditionally, on these cedar roofs, there's a lath, and then they put CDX plywood. They put CDX plywood on top of it, or traditionally you'd have the lath and then you put the shingles on,
Right.
and that's it. And they went ahead, the first time I saw it, they were halfway on with it, and they put all this extra CDX 5/8 plywood over the roof, and they put an impervious membrane so that anything that got icing, anything that got through there would get off. And my kind of concern and just kind of thought was moving forward was that that was a change that was made that affects, could affect the engineer, it's a lot of weight for a very old roof. And also that we're providing a roof for a historic building, and it was done in a historic setting. It used to just, you put the lath on, put the shingles on. I'm not a roofer, but I did talk to some old-time preservation roofers, and they said, well, if it worked for 100 years, why change it?
I'll tell you why.
And it's not, it's just something that I felt moving forward with the CPC, it would be nice to have, when issues like that come up, if we had a policy saying something's going to change, let's look at the engineering, because I'm thinking about it, and I know there's been a problem with the
Stretch
the
code,
with the
energy code. That's why they had to do it.
well, it's a historic. Well, that's not this what it says here. It says nothing to do with the code.
Well, we're running into this with roofs all the time on the building department, where they're being forced into meeting energy codes, which means they build up the roof and then they put the shingles on. Normally,
Do they
we're
have a
told
heat
that.
in there?
Normally, we're told that at the HDC level, but it's becoming quite common. I'm getting at least 1 or 2 calls a day about people trying to figure out how to meet the new energy codes on old buildings. Now, whether that's insulating the roof with rigid underneath that, or that what they used, or whether they're using it on the outside walls, which then changes the profiles of the building.
Well, they're not.
It's crazy stuff going on, but it's a post and beam building, so it's got some stability in there.
Yeah. No.
I don't know how much they put on it.
Toby, excuse me.
Carol?
Did you ask them when you saw that?
Yeah, no,
They were
I asked,
doing?
I was like,
And?
and I kind of felt that they were putting it on because that's how we shingle nowadays. And
Yeah.
the contractor wasn't there, it was just the roof, one of the roofers, and I was like, okay, and it doesn't, I feel okay with it because it's not, permanently damaging anything, they didn't tear anything off, but it's the lath they used, it's a little detail, is this beautiful old lath that they recycled from somewhere. It's got these little curly cues on it underneath, and it was just, I felt like moving forward, it being my first time as a CPC member and kind of going through the project, it was like, if a change like that is going to be made institutionally, I think we should be able to have an engineer saying, okay, we're approving these funds, this is okay, because I don't think.
Was what they did in accordance with the building permit that was issued?
Yes.
All right, so I think that covers what our responsibility should be.
Okay.
So I was concerned that they were doing something outside the scope of the building permit.
It's
No.
not visible when they're done.
Yeah.
No, it's not visible, and I don't think it's outside the scope.
But we don't generally have control over that level of construction detail. We never have.
No.
Right.
That's something, that's a review beyond our pay grade.
Well, that it was something I just.
No, it's a valid concern. As long as the project is done in accordance with the government entities that have regulation of it, then that's what our concern is.
Right, yeah.
And that, for instance, with respect to the money that we give to the rental housing to interfaith council. I mean, what we did was we made it a criteria that the monies could only be used as long as the places that people were living in satisfied were legally authorized
Right.
places to live in.
Right.
Carol?
Linda, what is being done on the roof at the Wisconsin Fire Station?
I'll know this weekend, for sure.
No, have you seen the install?
I've been
they-
out there the last couple of weeks.
I have.
Are they, I always thought that the lath was necessary with wood shingles as a breathing element for the
Right.
shingles,
Well,
and that's the
that's
reason it's installed.
Right, and so that's how they used to do it traditionally, and then now they put plywood on, and then they put this plastic stuff on, and then they put the pubic hair black stuff. And it's like, well, it worked the way it used to. Why does it change? And it's $6,000. It wasn't a big.
You're not a big item.
It wasn't a big item, and it didn't. They were halfway through it, and I didn't want to cause an uproar and say, I'm new to this, but it was just something I felt, and I know when I talked to Neville, he was like, yeah, we redid that roof, 10 or 15 years ago through the CPC on that building, and it made me think, and I know we talked about the church needing to be repainted because they didn't use a breathable paint, and it just made me feel that if we're, as an entity, I think we're doing a great job in vetting projects and staying on top of them, but I think
making sure that the money we spent
is well used.
is well used.
That seems unusual that, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go.
No, I mean, you brought this up in one of our, in a certain way, in our deliberations,
Yeah.
and it's a really good point that maybe we're versed in some of this stuff, and more likely than not, we're not, from a technical construction standpoint. But I mean, we might want to entertain some kind of consultant that can go out and check jobs for us from a project manager standpoint and report back to us whether they're conforming, they're not conforming, are they using the most cost-efficient material, are they within budget, are they out of budget? I mean, these are type of things that on some of these projects that out of our pay grade, I mean, we might look to have a consultant, project person that we can call and say, can you check this job and review it for these reasons and report back to the committee?
There's one small problem with that, and with regard specifically to roofing. Most aspects of a construction site are checked by an inspector. Roofing is not. So, therefore, if you hire a contractor, you're going to get the contractor's perspective on what is the proper way to roof, when in fact that may not be the way that Nantucket roofs. And I know for a fact that we do not roof the same way on island as we do off island. So, really what you're getting at, and I can hear it between the lines here, is you're worried engineering-wise whether the roof is too heavy. Or alternatively, if it should snow, or if we should have a heavy rain, is it too much weight for that roof? And
And
beyond our
I think that that's something that really needs to be taken up with, like, Steve Butler or the building department. So I hear what you're saying, and it is a problem, specifically with roofs here on the island.
What is the guarantee that they have gotten with the roof? Or do we know that?
there's a 10-year guarantee for the roof, for the life of the roof. Money back guarantee.
It's usual,
That's
For a wood roof?
Whatever roof.
whatever.
That would be the guarantee. It should last a lot longer than that. Red cedar should last 25 years.
Yeah.
probably.
Right.
I would like to say that I, have been a builder most of my life, and I would like to get more involved with specific projects, not necessarily calling the shots, just having ideas about what they're doing, what they're proposing. And I think Toby's thing, on the mainland, where I first roofed, you never saw a solid roof with wood shingles. It was like unheard of. But then I came to Nantucket and actually started working there when I was 14 years old. They put just plywood on, and they put tar paper up, and there was no problem because there's air blowing through it all the time. Well, that's what they would say here, And then they went to other fancy. I think that in terms of preservation, putting plywood on is a stupid non-preservation idea, and probably unnecessary, probably done by people that didn't like the look and never met with the batten system,
Yeah.
Who was the roofer?
TNT roofing?
They know what they're doing here. I've seen a lot of roofs.
No, I'm not.
And it could be because there's a wind load there that they don't have anywhere else, because
I'm-
those shingles should have lasted a lot longer than 10 years.
Right.
And that roof gets battered to hell,
I'm-
and it did, I know for a fact it leaked. So they had that cupola issue that leaked, and we fixed
Okay.
that.
Points well
So there's a
taken.
lot of
Points
issues, but
been made.
beyond our pay
Let's move
grade,
forward.
and we don't micromanage that way.
So my thought was just in regards to historic projects, it would be nice, I think, we're dealing with so much money going to historic projects, to have someone look over things.
I think that's the project manager's responsibility to
Yeah.
call. Project manager can go back to the committee and ask for help.
Okay.
That's clearly the way to do it.
Okay.
Right?
Well, is what I'm saying is the project was like halfway through, and I didn't feel like it was appropriate to say, well, we should stop there, hold everything, let's rip off half the roof,
You
It's just
can't.
common sense, and that moving forward, might be nice to have a consultant who is a preservationist who can say, this is the right way to do this.
We
We're
have no
talking about
jurisdiction over this.
repainting a building, for $600,000 that, I don't understand the whole details of it, but that seemed to me like it's a little extra oversight beyond the project manager would be valuable.
We have a motion made and seconded, and we're way off topic.
Further discussion on the motion.
Just to, I think it's legitimate that with Toby's reasonable concerns that we could have asked the applicant to come in and the building department just to explain it. I think we could have we can get answers.
Well,
No?
I think that's within the scope, Linda, because of the fact
Yeah.
that our responsibility is to ensure that the funds are spent in accordance with the approvals at town meeting.
Which is to re-roof, or whatever that was. Not how they roof it, not what material, they said,
Well,
they
the
said
point is
wood
that-
or
the
whatever.
point is that it's re-roof within the permissions given by the appropriate government authority.
Right,
So-
and they are.
So, in this instance, nobody's raised a separate issue, but it's one that we need to take a look at it on.
Yeah, for a
case-by-case
future
basis.
agenda, we could talk
Yes.
about it. I just wanted to bring it up, but I'm comfortable signing this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Move the
Hearing
question.
no further discussion relative to the motion to approve items A through G, all those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Shortly before the meeting, received a request which we agreed to add to the agenda. This is from the town relative to expenditure under the bond for a invoice for the artificial turf playing field. You will recall that the approval at town meeting for the bond was that the money went to the town manager, and the town manager would be able to disperse it. The agreement that we worked out with Brian, the new finance director, was that these matters would come for review to the CPC but we also agreed that we would do it on a timely basis so that we didn't run into the problem of creating a problem with the 14 days that they have to make these payments. Okay?
Shouldn't the project manager be notified?
This, Linda, this came in at about 10 minutes to 3.
Well, I know, today in
So-
particular, but
so-
I haven't seen a single bill since last January, just so you know.
I understand. And the fact of the matter is the town council had advised them that they were able to do what they did, and because of the fact of the way that the bond was passed, they were within their legal rights. The agreement that was reached between Rich and I and Brian on behalf of the CPC is that with respect to fundings where the town had monies, that they would come to the CPC for review before they were paid. My thought was that either you as project manager or Rich as Park and Rec would be just taking a quick review. And this is pretty straightforward.
What
It's
is
a
it
bill
for?
for $54,160. It's within it's almost the last part of the invoice for the original contract of $1,490,000.
Is it for painting the whale on the middle of the field, or is this for field work?
No, it's for field. It is for field work. It is for general conditions survey, tree brush cutting, cuts and fills, storm drainage, mud flow, flat drains, water lines, site electric, turf anchor, gravel base, concrete walks, safety netting, chain link fencing, base and top stone, fine grade, asphalt paving, synthetic turf, loam and seed, punch list. So those are the items that are covered, and parts of them only, not all of them are covered by this, but parts of them are.
We still don't have the memorandum, by the way. We should probably tackle that after.
My suggestion is that we approve this subject to review by you and Rich.
Well, I know the work that was done.
Right.
You listed off the work that was included
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
RFP also,
Yeah.
so I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, and I'd like to have Rich take a look at it, because they were the original.
They were the applicants.
They were the applicants. So I would entertain a motion
I'll
to
make a
approve this
motion to
subject to review and approval recommendation by Rich Turner, the representative of Park and Rec.
I'll make that motion.
For a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Can we encourage those people to get these in on a more timely basis to the appropriate?
Let me say that clearly, but this is the first step.
This is progress.
We are learning to crawl, soon we will learn to walk, and then at some point in time we'll learn to run. I'm just happy that we're agreeing to crawl. So,
I think that's great, Ken. I'm glad to hear that.
yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how pleased I am that Brian kept his word to Rich and I with respect to this.
I think something needs to be pointed out, though, that we have a motion made in second. The reason why we are voting on it today is because, and it's not on the agenda,
Yeah.
it's because this matter came in and was not reasonably anticipated by the chairman.
That's correct. There was no way we could anticipate this.
Right.
I mean,
And there was a
it was
time
literally delivered less than 15 minutes before the start.
But they're going to have to, if they know these bills are there, they have to do it in
They're-
order for us to
they're-
post them.
The message we'll get back to Brian and Martin. So,
Okay.
any further discussion with respect to this? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carries unanimously.
I have something
Then
under
throw our
other
questions.
other
Sorry?
business or wherever we are.
We're ready to go into old business. We added one item to new business, and that was from my, to give a report on my report.
Okay. Did everybody get the email about it's beautiful, if anybody hasn't seen it yet. It was over at the regular station for a little while. The truck is back. The fire truck is back.
I forgot.
Oh, yes.
And
This
that's
Sunday.
at 1 o'clock this
at
Sunday
1
out
o'clock.
at Sconset.
This
Pardon?
Sunday?
This
Last Sunday.
This
No,
Sunday.
No, this Sunday
This
coming.
The 21st.
Yeah, I thought I missed it.
It's stunning.
Yeah, the 21st.
I mean, it looks like a brand new, somebody had just made it brand new, rolled off the assembly line. This guy in Maine is a wizard, I'll tell you. That's all he does is refurbish these things.
Have you ever seen it, Rich?
Now that the Pats won the division, 1 o'clock's fine.
And I was worried about that in terms of how do I get back to Wisconsin to be able to watch the game.
So where's the show?
Fire
station.
Oh.
Fire station Wisconsin.
Yeah.
At 1 o'clock this coming Sunday. To the extent that you can get out there, that would be pretty nice. Any other old business, new business?
I don't know whether it's old or new, but I have some questions about the line item budget. Why don't we kick this till after?
No, the line item budget is
can't
on the
take that
agenda
up.
for January. Okay?
Thank you.
Right. Unfortunately, Rich, the FinCom scheduled the meeting, our presentation to the meeting at 4 o'clock on the day before Stroll started. And it was interesting because of the fact that the first part of the meeting, town council goes over and reviews all of the items that are citizens warrant articles, and he makes comments on them to the FinCom. And the entire FinCom was there. It was a good meeting. When I got there about 4:30 because they said they anticipated me being on about 5 o'clock. I was like to get there a little bit early, and as I walked in the door, DiGiorgio was starting to make his presentation, and he said, well, I looked around, I didn't see Mr. Bogrand here, so I'm ready to comment on the CPC articles.
Oh,
And Matt says, well, Mr. Bogrand anticipated you because he's just walked in the door. I mean, it was, if I had wanted to schedule an entrance, I couldn't have done it any better. Anyway.
So what happened?
What he said was that the two articles, our regular article, were in proper form and everything like that. The second article, with respect to the funds coming back, were in proper form. That our bond article was in proper form, except that he believed that the funds should be made payable to the housing authority as opposed to the town manager, because the housing authority had the land and authorized the project with HAC.
We don't own the property.
You could finish, Ken.
I'm just telling you what he said. I said, I don't care how you do it. That the object of the exercise is to be able to generate a bond, to be able to provide the $800,000 to complete the second part of phase 2 of the project. He then went on to say that he believed that there might be a problem with respect to the funding through the bond because of the amount of monies that could be used to individuals who were above the 100% of the median income for Nantucket. But I pointed out to him that Nantucket, as is our want, has a special act that was done in 2006 that provides that our housing monies can be used for between 85 to 150% of the median income in Nantucket. And basically he asked that I provide the proof to him of that it was with it. So I met with Renee, and we sent both to Libby and to Town Council the article from that's a special act that provides that we can provide affordable housing between 85 to.
But Ken, the question has come up many times because the CPC Act itself says only up to 100%.
Right.
And we've limited with Housing Nantucket the funding for up to 100% when they're rehabbing some of these things, because the act is not necessarily superseded by our special legislation vis-a-vis the covenant.
But he wasn't concerned with respect to our warrant article. He was concerned with respect to the bond.
Right, and using the money for things that are past 100%.
Right.
Now, I don't think our home rule petition that went up to 150% when we created the covenant, which the Housing Authority owns, supersedes the CPC Act that says that housing funds can only be used up to 100%.
Well, the point is that there is also another way to be able to achieve that, and that the project at Sitch's Path is a 40B, and as long as we have 25% of the units affordable within under 100%, then we're all set.
Because we went through this with the Human Services.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not worried about it. We have two ways to be able to address the issue. One is with respect to the special act, which justifies the 85 to 150%, and the second is with respect to it's a 40B project, of which only 25% has to be
I'm 100%.
But understand, the housing authority cannot accept that money.
Well, what's left with is town council will be redrafting that as they do for all of the citizens warrant articles that go to FinCom in terms of coming up with the correct language. That was what his thought was at the time, but he said he needed to research it further.
I think you just
We
answered
know
my
we
question,
can't.
so thank you. I just didn't know how quickly this would get to town council to make sure that we have.
Town council, it was given to him right then and there. He said, there's some issues. I said, I will provide you with the documentation that we have. We're totally comfortable with knowing that you will be crafting the language of the bond article that satisfy the law with respect to it. So.
Okay, and that doesn't affect timing deadlines and the like. So,
No,
because
no,
it may
no.
be they're working with Kevin, and I forgot the other woman's name.
Yeah.
I mean, there may be a way to position the amount of that bond to a part of the project, including infrastructure.
That's where it's going.
That's what it is.
It's
That-
all for
Yeah.
infrastructure.
That would
That's
take
what it
some of
is.
this.
No, the
but-
project is all for,
No.
the money's all for infrastructure.
Right, so does that, but they're still going to connect the 85% to
Yeah,
150%?
for the whole development, it's a
For the whole
40B.
development.
But as far as the housing authority accepting it, we
But I was being
can't.
infrastructure
But I-
versus units that
No.
are designated to
It's all
percent
all the
income.
money's for infrastructure.
Now,
Anyway,
housing,
the town council knows that.
Hack made the application, why can't Hack get the money? Because they're not a town entity?
I don't know the answer to that. Linda. I didn't get
That's
into the
fine.
legal
So
details.
town council's working
It
on
was
how
not
to make this work.
That was not our issue. Our issue was the
Right.
fact that we created a citizens article. Town council said there were some issues with it. He's going to work to draft it so that it achieves the purpose of what the article is.
Yeah.
I spent about an hour meeting with FinCom. We went over every single
Everyone of them?
Application.
application. The only ones that I had any questions on were the sustainable Nantucket issue, and that was addressed to, and it was what's his name? Christie had some questions on it, and they were able to answer those questions for Christie. He was just concerned because he felt that there were a couple of projects that Sustainable Nantucket had attempted before and had not been able to follow through on. So he was concerned about monies going to an entity that had, from his point of view, a potential mixed track record.
Well, then we get it back.
But the point is that I talked to Christie, and he said he was satisfied with the responses that he had gotten.
What was the other one that they had a question on?
I honestly don't remember.
Well, it was something minor.
It was really, it was just, it was a,
The ponds?
no, because the bonds were never on the
Approval list.
approval list. They were not on our warrant article.
That's right.
Rich?
Yeah, just to go back to the housing thing, I'm sorry about that. It's, I guess in my mind, I was curious as we're speaking to town council or they're looking at this, when I was talking infrastructure, is pulling sewer lines and paving roads and et cetera, is that income agnostic versus building the sticks to the house that's
Yes.
going to house the 85% or the 150%?
Yes, it's
So-
a system-wide, because we've had the same thing with the thing across the street at the Human Services. It was mixed use, and we were able to do all of the, at least initially before we got it back, we were able to do all of it because there was an affordability component. You can't just pick that one section off, because part of a 40B means you have to spread those low-income units out. They cannot be in one spot. So in order to access the low-income unit in the back, you have to access the 150 next door to it.
Right.
So they don't make that distinction when you're talking 40Bs.
So Ken, you're comfortable that town council and your communication is such that they're working to make this work?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
That was a clear message.
And that FinCom's going to support
Oh, yeah,
our
well,
warrants.
It's
the ultimate.
The interesting thing is, it's
Yes, yes it is.
Always an
if you're a
adventure.
member of FinCom, you need to recuse yourself if you or the organization that you're involved with have a potential interest in the matter that's in front of FinCom.
How many get off?
Everyone except Matt got up and said that at some point in time they would have to recuse themselves. They didn't leave the room, but it was
Really?
so
on our
So I
project.
think there's a significant amount of support from the members of FinCom for the items that we have put forward.
Like a small voting body.
Well, then you invoke the rule of necessity and everybody
No,
says.
it was
Just a joke.
it was really funny. You know, you're walking to, and I'm standing in front of the microphone. You know, I felt like telling him that I'd showered. You know, because everybody stands up and goes walk out into the audience. So it was really funny. But Matt allowed them to ask questions from the audience as well. So, I mean, it was a healthy discussion. There was discussion, but there was only one with respect to questions on the line. So.
Well, they can all sit because of the rule of necessity.
Necessity, yeah.
And they can all just wander back up to their seats because that's how it's supposed to
But
work.
it was. They felt that they felt really comfortable with the approach that they were taking, and Matt said that having experienced us for a number of years, he said that he thought that this committee does one of the absolute best jobs in terms of addressing the needs of the community and allocating the funds that are available. So,
And I just, piggybacking on Ken, I spoke to HAC, Adrian, and told her of our warrants, and obviously she's more than ecstatic and thrilled, as all systems go for HAC in Sachem's Path. They're going to fully support our efforts, and we'll be here for a town meeting because they know the one warrant and the bond warrant is different, and it's going to take a little bit more of a push or a sell at town meeting potentially because of the higher threshold. It'll need 2/3, all systems are go as it relates to the project out there. Tons of interest, tons of interested parties, and the formal application should be out pretty soon. And they're still on target for, I think, first quarter, January, February, to start a house. So,
Oh, they're back over again today. They started up again.
yeah.
If I can just add on to what you said, Rich, the board is discussing issuing an RFP for this section over here to do a affordable housing, compound essentially, or apartment building. And so, one of my thoughts behind doing that is there'll be a lot of attention at this year's town meeting towards that issue. And in talking with Ann Fitzville, we can hopefully use that to galvanize some support to get more people who are concerned and have similar views on that issue at town meeting.
yeah, I mean the point is that if anybody can read, you can see that affordable housing is one of the critical issues facing this community.
Yeah.
And to put our head in the sand and suggest that it's going to somehow go away is
Right.
insane.
Right. So I think, for all of the reasons, I think the timing is now better than what it was 3-4 years ago when the economy was a little, stagnant and down. Now the economy is a little bit healthier, is pushing forward, and
And you don't have the local contractors feeling that this was taking money out of their pocket, because that was the
Right.
concern
That's
3-4
right.
years ago, because their secondary dwellings were the things that they felt were going to be damaged by this. And now they're all fully rented, or they have been able to sell the properties and have lots of money in their pockets. So.
right. So
Oh, the rents are too
the
high.
timing is really
That's what's happening right
good
now.
as it relates to any of the affordable housing
And the only
projects.
other heavy discussion was on the HAC. I mean, this whole housing thing. But they were just questions in terms of wanting information. And it was really very, very supportive. So. Any other items that anyone would like to raise?
I'd like to comment that, once again, the chair obviously has shown his diplomatic and reasonableness in representing us. Thank you.
If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. You have a very, very Merry Christmas.
And as we all know, tonight is the first night of
It is.
Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Oh, happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Obvious when I'm being here.
Oh, not at all.
It's okay.
You can talk to them, I can handle it.
So Richard, it's official, it becomes official then.
All right.
Assuming your letter is accepted.
He just doesn't run. The day of the election.
I'm not on the ballot.
So you're gonna be,
I'll be here.
so you're gonna take the swords for the
Yeah,
whole
with the
bond.
roof on there.
Yeah, I'll
That's
take
gonna be your,
the swords. I'll be
He's
there.
got nothing to lose.
I'll be there. Take
you're it.
the swords.
Yikes.
Are you gonna have a conversation with that individual about what he did the other day?
Thank you for your service and for your help onboarding me too, so you were very generous.
We're putting out $3.5 million.
I'll be around.
Nice to
Thank
just spend time on this and call you if I
It
have
is
any
what it is.
questions.
I know exactly what it is.
Business.
I have no question about
on
it.
the fields.
All this stuff, stuff that's been done.
You get it.
Well,
You get
a lot
it.
more to do.
All right. Catch you guys later.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Linda, Ken does a lot of work covering up on, making sure that all the T's are dotted. But I think having someone, just because we do so much historic preservation work, and it's so important, that if we spend, 20 million a year on
No, I don't disagree with what I'm saying. As project managers, we can generally ask the question and ask the representative of the sit around here and answer our questions. So, and I think that's,
Right, but that's very different. In my scenario, it's I didn't feel that it would be the right way to deal with it.
There you go.
It's funny, but leave it
What
to your
happened
son.
I don't think it was anything terrible with that. I think it's terrible. I talked to some folks and they're like, it could be for the way of the problem. Engineers
Thank you.
don't
You
like
too.
perfect answers,
no, but
it's
it's,
flexible.
but we
And so there's,
She makes him prove
so
himself.
it's not necessarily important
You go
to
talk to
say,
her.
to bring in the contractor and ask him questions. I don't want to have to me, down the 10 years down the line, it's more helpful if we have someone who catches, says, okay, here's a change, and there's a policy that says if something's going to change beyond the scope, we automatically, this person gets a call and says, hey, what do you think? He says, I don't feel comfortable with that. He brings it before the board, or talks to the project manager who comes to us. And also when we're reviewing projects, we should have someone saying, you know what, because they go out and this person does that, and we're relying on that contractor's word that they're going to do something right, or they're going to do it in a way. I might have a different way of how things are, but I'm not an expert. I have a good idea of the right way to do things, but it would be nice to have someone who has expertise in the historic preservation field to say, hey, these are something to look forward.
But
the real issue there is no one
Right.
benchmark in terms of preservation, in terms of, for instance, on the work that I'm doing in our house on Farmer Street, right? You talk to one person, he says one thing, you talk to another one, he says another thing. And I think, how did we fight with the building department? Because they wanted me to have to insulate all of on the inside of the house. Now, all the preservation studies show that you want to leave it breathing, but if you're going to insulate, you need to do the kind of insulation that allows it to breathe, because if you put that insulation in that gets hard, and what happens is if the water goes in, the moisture goes in, gets stuck and stays there, and then rots out the building from the inside.
yes.
I mean, so I had a big fight, and I finally won in the sense that only in the place where we, in fact, had to do really new framing did we have to put insulation in. So, I mean, it's the building's been there for 200 years for God's sake.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I think Toby's question goes beyond the historic factor there with the, but I think it's a question the project manager
No,
can ask.
absolutely. And that's the role of the project manager,
Yeah.
actually, to be able to say, I don't know that what they're doing is the right thing based on what's supposed to be done relative to this project with respect to our fund.
And
So I get, just for the future, I should be just more on top of before any changes happen.
Yeah.
I wasn't contacted to say, oh, we're gonna make this change. I knew the project was started, I stopped by a week later, I said, oh, can you make sure you reflash the chimney, and you do this, and they, you know, there's little things that I do know about,
All right,
and I saw that they did that, and I was like, you know, in my mind, I'm like, oh, gee, you know.
I'm surprised if we funded a roof there 10 years ago.
What was it?
Doing
I
what?
think Neville's number is.
It might have been 15, you know,
It's
and
close.
it's a high,
It was one of the very first things we did at the start of the CPC,
Right.
so it's close.
So it's headed,
Closer
all right,
to 13 years, 12 or 13 years.
yeah.
but see, that's an interesting thing, so maybe if that's the case, and, you know, they're putting the same shingles essentially on as that they originally did, why aren't we putting a thicker shingle
Like
on?
a shingle on to be able to make sure that
Right.
that it's not going to last longer than
Right,
12.
right, and I wasn't here when we approved the C-Star
Right.
project, so I didn't, but it's institutional knowledge I'm trying to take on, and I'm interpreting it saying, okay, well, it would be useful. I just feel like maybe when we're going through and reviewing the projects to say, here, you know, there are folks who are, you know, I don't want to say preservationists.
But that's like a number, for instance, a number of the projects, they retain Brian Pfeiffer or somebody like that
Right.
to be able to, because on the church projects,
Right,
on the Unitarian church on Orange Street,
Right.
they had Brian Pfeiffer.
Right.
The problem with the Congo church was that they didn't have a preservationist that
Right.
really, counseled them or advised them
Right.
with respect to what.
and I understand it. I guess maybe is what I'm saying is maybe a useful tool to dealing with that is we have a policy. If you're going to be requesting more than 100,000 for
Yeah.
historic preservation, you need to
You need to
engage.
have, you need to have, we've got, we can go back and say, you know, where's the preservation review or the preservationist review? So,
Right.
Okay.
It's,
Good idea.
I'm just saying from a,
Yeah.
because to me, it's, I don't want to belabor the, you know, they got a new roof, it works. But
from a
moving
policy point of view,
forward
yeah.
as a policy, it just, it might be helpful.
Yep.
Well, and with CPA, would you build that into their budget?
I would say if you,
Instead of increasing our G&A to have X amount of hours over X amount of projects, would you?
You can go back and say, you know, part of, when we award money, we can provide conditions. So,
Yeah.
so, I mean, it really should come out of the time when we're doing the questioning, okay?
Right.
Because where is the preservationist expert in terms of this? You know, how do we know that what we're doing is the best way to preserve this,
Right.
right? And so we can go back and say, well, that's part of what you need to come back to, and that's part of the money that we fund to be able to do that. So.
right, and that makes sense. That's how I wanted,
Yeah.
that's how I'd like to address it.
Yeah, and because that is the way to address it, because
Yeah.
you're up front in terms of indicating that this is the money, and part of it needs to go to the expert here who's going to be able to oversee
And it may not be their expert, it
May
may
not
be
be.
3 people that we approve.
Well,
Do we have that?
but,
Are
no,
we
but
able
the
to do
point
that?
is, what you do is you'd ask them to come back with a qualified expert, okay? So, and
'Cause
because
it's-
there's a limited number of them around, and everybody knows who they are. So.
Okay.
And it's little, you know, because you can have a great contractor, but they might, you know, they put a paint that seals in the moisture, all of a sudden you got
That's
a
what happened to
big.
the Unitarian Church, right?
That's right.
I don't know when
Well,
that was
that
done,
happened.
but that wasn't the paint.
It's the congregation.
It's the congregation.
Congregational church.
The Unitarian Church had a problem with their paint too. Not that it was CPC funded, I don't know. I just,
They had a, well,
a
they're,
special paint. that
well,
got all-
they're, it's interesting, you get they put the right kind of paint on, but the problem they had was they didn't like it molded.